Lian-Li for the most part has always been regarded as the quality brand due to aluminum construction, which has always been reflected in its price. But it must come to a point when using aluminum as the main material is no longer ideal, since the high price may not reflect on better features or even better build quality. So let's find out if this aluminum full tower, the PC-A76, justifies its hefty price tag of $220. Now, if you are into spaceship looking cases, the A76 is in a completely different spectrum. We have the Lian-Li standard design, or you can say the lack of. It's very simplistic, with black brushed aluminum all around, with only the logo at the bottom. Now, the overall build quality is pretty decent, however the side panels are very thin and are prone to bending, and the last thing you want is a big ugly dent on your side panel. The internal frame, however, is well built, and since everything is aluminum, the case is very light. Now, the front panel has venting strips on each side for the intake fans, along with a small hard drive activity lights. The panel can also be locked. It's just an extra feature that you might utilize if you attend LAN events. And behind the panel, we have two 5¼ drive bays, including three 140mm intake fans. Now, I would have preferred to see an external dust filter for the fans, just to simplify the cleaning process, but instead each filter is attached to the actual fan. And Lian-Li has made it quite easy to remove the front fans, as they pretty much just slide in place using these rubber grommets. Now, the power and reset buttons are located at the top to keep the front clean, and the rest of the connections are hidden behind the cover with 4 USB ports and your audio jacks. And also notice the cutout for the eSATA port, meaning you can buy the optional ports panel that includes the eSATA connection. And of course, having the connections on top of such a large case, they may be hard to reach if it's placed in a confined space. And Lian-Li also includes the USB 2 adapter for those incompatible motherboards. And what is a full tower without top fan placement? Unfortunately, we only get two cutouts for 120mm fans, meaning no native triple rad support or any larger fans, unless user modified. The side panel has an additional dual 140mm cutouts to help in the thermal department, and included are the two dust filters to complement the fans for the side panel. And at the back, we have a bit more venting at the top, water cooling holes, an exhaust fan, I/O area, 11 PCI slots, more venting on the side, and the bottom mounted power supply with a removable dust filter. The case also stands on rubber feet, which is a must for stability and noise reduction. So taking off the side panel, we get the first glimpse on the inside. Notice this is a black on black chassis. Having black aluminum interior is actually quite nice, as we usually see this plain aluminum. This will definitely help to camouflage all the cables. Now, this is a full tower, so support for eATX and HPTX motherboards is available. So first things first, only one optical drive has toolless mounting, below which this massive drive cage. Then there's the graphics card support bracket and some rubber grommets around the motherboard tray. Unfortunately, these rubber grommets are still quite poor and can fall out easily. And Lian-Li should really develop something better for a $200 case. So in total of 4 fans are included, the 3 140mm front intake fans along with the 120mm exhaust. And looking in the back, the CPU cutout is actually quite small and will be rendered useless for many motherboards. Then we have 2 cutouts at the top, one for the 8-pin and the other for routing the fans, for example. Then notice this large area behind the motherboard is all bare, without any cable tie notches. So I'm not sure why Lian-Li ignored the basics of cable management, as only the front panel cables are routed through this little channel. So overall, very limited cable management, quite disappointing for a case of this caliber. Now let's check out the drive cage. It supports 3 SSDs that mount to the bottom of these dividers, and a total of 12 3.5-inch drives can be installed. Using provided screws and rubber grommets, you simply slide the drive in place, and using the drive lock, sort of have been the staple for Lian-Li, you can secure the 3.5-inch drives. Now this whole mounting system works great. It prevents vibration and is relatively hassle-free. However, the design of the cage is questionable for a few reasons. Well, first, it is not modular, so there's plenty of resistance on airflow even if you're only using a couple of drives. Second, the drive cage is not removable unless you take out your power tools. Third, there are no fan mounting options on the side, which holds great potential for that extra cooling. And finally, probably the biggest issue is the clearance for those power SATA cables for the SSDs. The mounted drives are slightly more pushed in, so using only the end tip will allow the connector to fit. So there's plenty of practical issues with the drive cage, and we really hope Lian-Li can justify its future pricing, not on aluminum alone. And finally, getting on with the assembly, Lian-Li includes the motherboard thumb screws, which are a lot easier to use. And just look how spacious the interior is. It's a great advantage for enthusiast hardware. Unfortunately, the space is not efficiently used. For example, there's plenty of room at the bottom for an intake fan, which is not utilized. There's also no other space to route the cables from behind the motherboard tray but the 3 cable cutouts. Now, installing our 11.5 inches card, the case pretty much devours anything you put inside of it, and we have clearance up to 15 inches. Now, the last thing I want to mention is this support bracket. We have different height levels, which will depend on the location of your GPU, and by using these 3 plastic pieces, 2 of which will clip on the bracket, you no longer have the case with a sagging graphics card. This feature will probably not be useful to many unless you own a heavy beast of a triple slot card. Now, the GPU bracket will help to separate dual, triple, and even quad card setups. However, due to some motherboard layouts, you may encounter problems fitting dividers between 2 closely placed cards. Now fully assembled, first notice the stretched audio cable, which could be an issue for some motherboards, and the interior cleaned up pretty well with the use of modular cables. And coming around to the back, it looks pretty decent, although I can imagine it can get quite messy with a heavier build. So to wrap things up, the PC-A76 has plenty of potential, so if you're looking to mod this guy, you will definitely be satisfied with the end result. Now, the main advantage here is the size. It will eat 12-inch cards for breakfast and have the eATX motherboards on the side. And also great, the amount of drives it can support, all topped with a hassle-free assembly. However, I keep scratching my head to why Lian-Li decided to leave out so many useful features like modular drive cages, different fan options for the top and side panels, and really leave us hanging in the wiring department. So summing up all these features that would have made this a killer case, it just does not add up to the asking price. So what are your thoughts on the case? Leave your responses in the comments below or on the Hardware Canucks forums, and we'll see you guys in the next one.